Welcome to this video on Chapter 2, Introduction to Ethics, based on Michael J. Quinn's Ethics for the Information Age, 4th edition. This video will cover an overview of ethical theories, starting with relativism, moving through divine command and utilitarianism, to social contract theory and the morality of breaking the law. We all share core values like life, happiness, and achieving goals. We can view the world through a selfish lens, or an ethical one, which respects others and their own core values. To understand ethics, we define society as an association governed by rules, morality as a society's rules of conduct, and ethics as the rational, philosophical study of those moral systems. Why study ethics? Because new technologies bring new problems where old wisdom may not apply, requiring us to use ethical reasoning to determine the best actions. Ethics involves rational, voluntary, and reasoned choices. A workable ethical theory must provide logical explanations that can persuade an open-minded audience. Subjective relativism suggests there are no universal moral norms. Instead, each person decides for themselves what is right or wrong, based on their personal perspective. The case for subjective relativism is that intelligent people often hold opposing views on complex moral issues, making it difficult to find a consensus. However, critics argue that subjective relativism blurs the line between personal desire and moral right, fails to distinguish between different actions, and lacks a foundation in reason. Cultural relativism proposes that right and wrong depend on a society's specific moral guidelines, which vary across different cultures and time periods. Proponents argue that different social contexts require different moral guidelines, and it can be seen as arrogant for one society to judge the practices of another. Arguments against cultural relativism note that it cannot account for obviously bad practices, struggles to explain social evolution, and ignores the core values that many societies share. Divine command theory posits that good actions are those aligned with the will of God, as revealed through holy books, which should serve as our primary guide. The case for this theory rests on the belief that we owe obedience to our Creator, who is all-knowing, all-good, and the ultimate moral authority. Critics argue that divine command theory struggles in multicultural, secular societies, leaves many modern problems unaddressed, and relies on obedience rather than rational discourse. Next, we turn to Kantianism, which emphasizes the critical importance of a good will, the sincere desire to do the right thing. Immanuel Kant argued that a good will is the only thing in the world good without qualification. Kantianism introduces the first formulation of the categorical imperative: act only from moral rules that you can, at the same time, will to be universal moral laws. To illustrate this, consider someone making a promise they intend to break. If universalized, the practice of making promises would become meaningless, showing the rule to be flawed. The second formulation of the categorical imperative states, treat people as ends in themselves, never only as a means to an end. Essentially, we must respect others, rather than simply using them. Let's look at a scenario. Carla, a hardworking single mother, is pressed for time and purchases a report to submit as her own work for a history class. Evaluating Carla's action with the first formulation, her rule, claiming credit for someone else's work, would be self-defeating if universalized. Therefore, it is morally wrong. Using the second formulation, we see that Carla treated her professor as a mere means to pass the course. By deceiving them, she failed to respect the professor, making her actions wrong. The case for Kantianism is that it is rational, produces universal moral guidelines applicable to all people, and treats every person as a moral equal. However, critics argue that Kantianism can be rigid. It sometimes struggles to resolve conflicts between moral rules and allows for no exceptions, even when common sense might suggest otherwise. In contrast to Kantianism, utilitarianism, associated with Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill, judges actions based on their outcomes, focusing on whether they produce happiness or pain. The principle of utility, or the greatest happiness principle, holds that an action is right to the extent that it increases the total happiness of those affected. Act utilitarianism is a consequentialist theory. It ignores intent and focuses on the results, requiring us to calculate the net change in happiness for all involved. Consider a highway routing scenario where a state considers replacing a curvy road. While a mile shorter, it would displace 150 houses and destroy some wildlife habitat. An act utilitarian evaluation weighs the costs, compensation, construction, and habitat loss against the benefits, such as reduced driving costs. If benefits exceed costs, the project is considered good. Ultimately, the case for ACT utilitarianism is that it provides a practical, comprehensive, and down-to-earth approach to ethical decision-making based on measurable happiness. However, ACT utilitarianism faces significant criticism. It is often unclear who should be included in the happiness calculations, the process is practically overwhelming, and it remains susceptible to the problem of moral luck. To address these issues, rule utilitarianism was developed. It suggests we should follow moral rules that, if universally adopted, would lead to the greatest overall increase in total happiness. Consider the anti-worm scenario from 2003. When the destructive blaster worm spread, the Nachi worm appeared, aiming to remove the virus and patch systems, though it also used infected computers as a network base. Evaluating this via rule utilitarianism, we weigh the benefits of system protection against the harms caused by involuntary access and potential system disruption. The conclusion: the harms outweigh the benefits, making the creation of the anti-worm wrong. The case for rule utilitarianism is strong. It simplifies moral calculations, avoids the pitfalls of moral luck, and provides a much more workable framework than ACT utilitarianism. Next is social contract theory, rooted in the ideas of Thomas Hobbes and Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It posits that we implicitly agree to moral rules and a government to enforce them, moving us away from a chaotic state of nature. James Rachels defines morality as a set of rules for mutual benefit that rational people agree to accept, provided that others follow those rules as well. This theory distinguishes between types of rights. Negative rights, like free expression, require others to leave us alone, while positive rights oblige others to act on our behalf. These rights can also be absolute or limited. John Rawls adds to this with his principles of justice, emphasizing that basic rights must be consistent for all, and that any social or economic inequalities must favor the least advantaged members of society. Using social contract theory, consider a DVD rental store that collects customer profiles to sell to marketing firms. Is this a violation of the implicit contract between the store and the customer? Evaluation hinges on whether customers have a reasonable right to expect privacy regarding their transactions. If that right is part of the social contract, then selling that information without permission is wrong. The case for social contract theory is that it is framed in the language of rights, provides clear analysis for citizen-government relationships, and is a highly practical ethical model. However, critics note that no one literally signs such a contract, that rights often conflict, and that it can be problematic when dealing with individuals who cannot fully uphold the agreement. In conclusion, these theories, Kantianism, ACT and rule utilitarianism, and social contract theory, offer different lenses for evaluating ethical behavior, focusing variously on duty, consequences, rules, and group agreements.